Hi everybody, Tony G, Director of Music Legacy International. I'm here with Bobby Owsinski. He's an amazing author of over 20 books, producer, engineer, social media expert. He's known for his Inner Circle podcast, which has amazing guests on there. And he's a Music Legacy member. I just have to read to you some of his credits. They include people like Jimi Hendrix, The Who, Pantera, Weird Al Yankovic, Willie Nelson, Elvis Presley, Neil Young, Iron Maiden, The Ramones, and Chicago. Amazing career. And we have him with us today. Hi, Bobby. It's nice to have you on the show. There are just so many great things that I've seen you do, heard you do, things that I've read that you've done in your past, and we're very grateful to have you on the show. We've listened to your podcast many times, and the guests that you have on are phenomenal, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Pleased to be
here. No problem. Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. So what I'd like to do, since the Music Legacy members that we have are from beginner to pro, maybe you could tell us a little bit about when you first had your first interest in music and how it took you to where you are today.
Yeah, I was a guitar player, and I grew up back in the days where there were a lot of clubs around to play. And what that meant was that when I was 16 already, I was playing weekends in bands and clubs. And then by the time I was leaving high school, I was doing 4 or 5 nights a week. And you could do that back then and actually make money.
Yes.
So that was my entrance into the music business, and then it just kept on going from there. Better bands, bands that were signed with record labels, and then major record labels, and it kind of rolled on from there. But I started in a very, very small area, Minersville, Pennsylvania, 5,500 people, and there were still lots of places to play, believe it or not.
Yeah,
and there aren't anymore. I mean, even in Los Angeles, you'd have a hard time playing 4 or 5 nights a week, I think.
It was a whole different world.
Yeah, it was. And it's kind of a shame because it was the farm team. It's where you got your chops together. It's where you learned how to work an audience. And that's not available as much anymore, which is a real shame.
Well, we hope to change that with Music Legacy because we have a lot of new venues that are opening up, and we're connecting with them, and it'll be a little bit of a slow process to start, but we hope to bring the music business back to where it was.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, my heart goes out to club owners these days because it cannot be easy. Just between the gentrification of the places, the areas in the town that used to be fairly inexpensive, and what it costs in terms of labor and insurance. Insurance costs are just out of sight, so it's really difficult.
It's crippling.
My heart goes out to them. Yeah.
Yep. All right, great. So now tell us when you first got started with the internet. That was still, the internet was fairly new, right?
I started in pretty early. I have to admit, it was mostly a branding exercise for me, in that I had already written books, and I wanted to get my name out there. And the internet is, the more people see you, the more you build your authority. So that was the primary reason at first, and it's the reason for the blogs, for instance, and then eventually podcast. But yeah, that was the whole thing, and mission accomplished. It sort of worked.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was actually great. I've actually been on quite a few of your free offers. This is one of the best tools to have, the Mixing Engineers Handbook. And then these new books that you've been coming out, these little smaller pamphlet type books. Tell us a little about that and the different ones that you have and how they can help.
Well, I've written a lot of books, 28, 29, not all in the music business. Um, but what started to happen for me was, I began to think, okay, spend a lot of time on a book, and I write books for a reason. It's not to make money. It's as a historian, really, a musical historian, because I want to preserve the techniques that we know about, but may, dissolve into the ether here unless someone keeps them alive.
Yeah,
So I've that's why I interview people, and I include the interviews in most of the books anyway. But that being said, I have a business coach, and the business coach said, maybe it'd be a good idea if you try something that was less expensive and it'd be easier. And then one of my courses, for instance, easier to grasp for people that really don't have the dough.
yeah,
And that's how the Mix Fix playbook came about. And there's lots of other ebooks that I've done that are fairly inexpensive in the free to 9.99 area.
right,
Um, and they're mostly accessible to 19.99 on the ebook side. As with all print books, they're more expensive, but you can't get away from that because it's just more expensive to do.
right.
But that's how it came about. It was mostly an idea from a business coach saying, to be I think there's a whole audience there that really want to access what you're doing and they can't right now because of finances. And this is
Right.
another way for them to grasp what you're doing. So that's how that came about.
And has that been successful for you? Has it worked out?
Yeah, yeah, it's been really good actually, surprisingly good. And we did what was called a soft launch where it was only out to the members of my list. It wasn't out, and it was only national. It wasn't international. The reason being for shipping costs are crazy. So until we kind of sort through that, we didn't want to take it out too far beyond the United States. And also, normally there's a bunch of people I work with that kind of do the same thing I do online, affiliates, and I didn't go out to them either because again I wanted to see what the reaction would be to just a smaller audience, and it was really good. It's excellent actually. So in the coming year, we'll probably roll that out further.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's so good to see these things, and being able to help people wherever they're at in their careers, and especially if they don't have the funds to do something, to provide them with a product or a service that can help them. Is Do you find that people who buy the smaller books also? I don't know if you even track this, but do you find that they evolve into buying the bigger book afterwards?
So there's, again, I have several courses as
That's
well.
Well,
The
either I
mixing,
guess.
yeah. Yes, I find that people that will buy a less expensive book will eventually buy the mixing engineer's handbook or the recording engineer's handbook, and now the mastering engineer's handbook. And from there, I find a great number of them will actually want to see how these techniques are done and hear what they're like.
Yeah,
So they'll also invest in Music Mixing Primer, Top 40 Mixing Secrets, Music Mixing Accelerator, one of those programs. So there's a number of them at different price points, and the books are an entryway. Although they weren't that way in the beginning, it was funny. The way I get into publishing, to writing books, you talk about serendipity and you talk about how things kind of work out and you never expect them. Uh, I was a musician, touring, and we were on a tour bus, and the bass player in the band came on and said, "I just got a job writing for the music paper." The music paper was just that. It was a music paper for the New York metro area that had everything about music and everything about the bands that were making it and the recording studios. And it was a wonderful publication that is no longer around, unfortunately. But when my friend said that, I thought, if he could do that, so can I. So I reached out to a number of publications, and Mix Magazine took a flyer on me. And it's funny because I just came across that article that I did, 25 years ago, and it was really terrible. So I look at it and I think, boy, it really come a long way, and it was edited no less. So wow. Anyway, I wrote first for Mix magazine, and then I wrote for EQ magazine for a while, and eventually I was writing for like 15 different publications, Grammy magazine and Billboard and all
Oh,
those.
wow. Excellent.
So and what that did is it gave me a real basis of people I didn't know in the business. Suddenly I knew, a lot of movers and
Right.
shakers. I got to interview for one of the magazines. So what happened was, I was recording. I was a really good recording engineer, but I was not a good mixer. And I thought to myself, I know the best people in the business. Why don't I just go ask them? And I did. And they were all really happy to tell me what they did and how they did it. And I thought, gee, if I want to know this, I bet a whole bunch of other people do too. So that became the first edition of the Mixing Engineer's Handbook. And I didn't know anything about writing a book, so I just wrote the whole thing. The way you usually do it is you write, a chapter or two and you send it out, and
Right.
then somebody signs it. But in this case, I wrote the whole book, and there were 5 publishers that wanted it. And of course, these were all specialty publishers in our business. In the music business, believe it or not, there was that many at one time. And they all wanted it, but I went with the publisher that was the most aggressive and seemed to want me the most. And it was a really good decision. And
Good.
I had a lot of people tell me, you can't write a book on mixing because it's so subjective.
Right.
You can't do it. But I thought, well, let me give it a shot and see what happens. And it was a hit because there were no other mixing books out there. Believe it or not, there was not another book on mixing. So it came out in 1999. It was an instant hit, and it was adopted in college music programs all over the world, and it's still used in college music programs all over the world. So that's one audience that I have. It's college students. College students normally don't have enough money after they graduate because they're just starting in the business. So they don't have enough money to kind of graduate into my courses. And already they've taken, courses in school. So
Right.
they don't
Right.
really need what I have to offer so much, even though it is different. But people that have been in the business for a while and are sort of at the same place that I was, where it's like, I know how to do this, but I'm not really good at mixing. Let me check this out. And older, I'm not going to say super old, but older musicians that have been around have become, my main audience. Although in colleges they still have my books. That's
Right.
kind of nice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's actually become my business model there, where it's the courses, it's the books, uh, it's the webinars that I do, the workshops, things like that, which are all a lot of fun, I have to say. And again, I'm trying to preserve the techniques of the giants that showed me how to do it, and I'm trying to pass that on. So that's my main goal in life right now.
Excellent. And it's a good goal. Good goal to have. And that's what we're trying to do too at Music Legacy. As far as the music goes, there are a lot of artists that have passed, and we're creating legacy profiles for them, because a lot of these people who are coming up in music now are actually coming up on the shoulders of other people that they've maybe heard in the past or whatever, but the actual music theory doesn't change. It's the artist and the inspiration that comes from an artist, something that they do that's a little unique with that theory. And it's important to
Well,
know who you come up with.
surprisingly enough, there has been some things that have changed over the years. Production techniques have changed. Songwriting techniques have changed. and not for the
Yes.
better. For production, maybe, but in songwriting, no. And a lot of it was because things were written around loops. So you're basically stuck in that one chord phrase, and that does not help writing. What you have to do in order to make it interesting is to really overproduce it, produce a song. And we're in that realm for quite a while. I'd say 5 years, and now I feel like we're coming out of it. We're starting to see songs with bridges. We're
Yeah.
seeing songs with intros and outros where you didn't have that for a few years. We're hearing songs that are more open and are, I don't want to say less produced, but less dense is the best way I can put it. So everything cycles, and I think we're coming back into a good cycle.
Yeah, I think a lot of things are changing, and
Yeah.
we want to be a part of that. And you are definitely already a part of that, because I can't imagine how many people have benefited from the products and the services that you provide for people in the industry. It's fantastic.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
Let me
I
know.
have an EQ challenge coming up that starts on March 3rd. I'm repeating what was very successful last year. It was a mixing EQ challenge. And this is coming up on March 3rd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. It's 3 days. And each day we focus in on a different EQ technique. And you're able to share it both with the crowd and also the people that have uh, subscribed to this. It's free, by the way. And also, you have the chance for me to critique your mix, which a lot of people like. But we did this last year, and it was really successful. Everybody liked it a lot, mostly because of the interaction. There's a lot of interaction that you get, but there's every day a brand new EQ technique, something that you can use immediately. And that means as soon as you hear it, you can take it to your mix and use it. And you're going to find it's really going to help. If you have any kind of questions about equalization during mixing, this is going to tell you not only how to do it, but why. And the why is the most important, because then you can adapt it to any situation. So that's my mixing EQ challenge starting on March 3rd. It's 3 days, it's for free.
Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate it. And I hope that maybe we could discuss some future things that we could do together.
Great. Well, I hope you, whichever way I can.
All right, beautiful. Thank you so much, Bobby. I appreciate you being on the podcast.
My pleasure, Tony. Take care.
All right, you too. Thanks so much. There's going to be a new Bobby Owsinski free event where you could learn more about EQ in the music industry, how to EQ your music. His stuff is really great. It's helped me a lot in my recordings, and I'm confident it could help you as well, no matter what level that you're at. So check it out. Thanks for being here.